Move through this moment with the certainty of someone who finally understands their own worth. Not the loud certainty of arrogance, but the grounded assurance of a person who has examined their mind, tested their spirit, and discovered that their value does not depend on applause, comparison, or validation. This is what the Stoics taught, that strength begins the moment you stop borrowing your identity from the world and start shaping it from within. When you walk, even in silence, let your steps reflect the truth you've been avoiding, that nothing outside you can define who you are, not the judgments of others, not the shadows of your past, not the mistakes that still echo in your memory. You are allowed to rise above all of it. You are allowed to move forward as someone who finally chooses themselves. The world around you may feel noisy and chaotic, but your inner ground does not need to shake. Epictetus reminded us that the only real power you possess is mastery over your thoughts and responses. So begin right here, guide your mind, steady your breath, and return to the understanding that you are already enough. You do not need to prove anything to earn your place in this life. You only need to show up with presence, intention, and courage. Walk with purpose, not because the path is easy, but because your inner compass is awakening. Let each step be a quiet declaration, I am worthy of this journey, not because of what I've achieved, not because of what others expect, but because existence itself entrusted me with the task of becoming someone wiser, steadier, and more compassionate. There will be moments when doubt whispers that you are falling short. Let those moments pass like passing clouds. Seneca taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and the fears you carry are often illusions dressed as facts. Release them, let them slip through your fingers. Return to what is true, your character, your discipline, your choices. These things define you more than any external measure ever could. Continue forward with a posture that reflects inner clarity. Not stiffness, not pride, but calm confidence, the kind that grows from living in alignment with your principles. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your worth is measured by the quality of your thoughts, so fill your mind with steady resolve instead of chaotic self-criticism. Recognize how far you've come, even if the world hasn't seen your quiet battles or silent victories. You are enough because you are still here, still learning, still rising, still shaping yourself into someone capable of meeting life with dignity. Let that truth sink into your bones. Let it guide your movement, your choices, your voice, your presence. Walk with the awareness that you carry something unshakable inside you, the ability to choose who you become next. And as you move forward, let this be your silent vow. I will walk as someone who understands their value. I will live as someone who honors their strength. I will rise as someone who no longer doubts their own place in this world. Step into this moment with a quieter mind, because the heaviness you've been holding is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply the residue of old expectations, unspoken fears, and borrowed opinions. The Stoics understood that the world often tries to convince you that you are lacking something. But look closer, beneath the pressure, beneath the noise, beneath the stories others have projected onto you. There is a self that has remained untouched, steady, and capable. Walk like someone who remembers this hidden strength, not as an act or a performance, but as a recognition of what has always been within you. Your value does not shrink when you stumble, nor does it expand when others praise you. It remains constant, shaped by your inner posture, your choices, and the integrity you carry. This is why Marcus Aurelius urged the mind to return to its own standards instead of chasing the shifting winds of approval. When you move through life, hold your head with the calm assurance of someone who has seen their own darkness and refuses to be defined by it. A person who understands their own worth walks differently. There is no rush to impress, no desperation to be understood, no hunger for validation. There is simply presence, the kind that makes others sense something steady about you, even before you speak. Remember this whenever the world tries to measure you by its unstable metrics. Someone's opinion of you may change tomorrow. Circumstances may shift without warning. Fortune may lift you up one day and test you the next. But none of that alters who you are at your core. Seneca taught that the mind becomes unbreakable when it stops depending on external symbols and begins rooting itself in virtue and clarity. Let your steps reflect that clarity. You're not walking to outrun your past. You're walking to meet your future with a heart that trusts itself. You're not moving forward to prove anything. You're moving forward because growth is your responsibility. And the moment you commit to that responsibility, you already become more than enough. Think of the times you doubted yourself simply because someone failed to see your potential. Think of the moments you questioned your path because life challenged you. Each of those moments was meant to refine you, not break you. Epictetus reminded us that adversity reveals the character we didn't know we possessed. So instead of shrinking under pressure, rise through it and let each step declare that you are not defined by circumstance, but by response. Walk with a rhythm that aligns with your inner truth. Let your presence carry quiet dignity, the kind that doesn't need to be announced. Your worth does not shout, it resonates. Your strength does not explode, it unfolds. Your confidence does not demand attention, it simply exists, grounded in understanding rather than ego. And as you continue forward, let this thought guide your breath. You are enough because you were shaped by challenge, sharpened by experience, and strengthened by every moment you refuse to give up. The journey ahead will ask for resilience, patience, and discipline, but it will never ask you to become someone other than yourself. Walk as the person you were meant to be, centered, capable, and deeply aware of your own value. Let this moment remind you of a truth you've often forgotten. Your presence carries more power than the doubts that try to diminish you. The Stoics understood that the mind invents obstacles long before the world does. It creates illusions of inadequacy, whispers of insignificance, and shadows that distort reality. But when you learn to separate these mental storms from your true essence, you begin to walk with a different energy, steady, composed, confident without pretending. Move through the world as someone who recognizes the quiet force within themselves, not a force meant to dominate others, but a force meant to anchor you. When you walk, let each step be guided by inner clarity, the kind that comes from knowing you don't need to earn your worth, you need only to embody it. Marcus Aurelius urged the soul to return to its own nature, because in that nature lies all the strength you have been searching for. Think of how often your doubt has interrupted your path, not because you lacked ability, but because you allowed noise to influence your direction. Those moments where you hesitated, overthought, or pulled back were not signs of weakness. They were signs that your mind had drifted away from itself. Seneca wrote that a person becomes calm when they stop expecting anything external to complete them. Let this understanding guide you now. Walk with a presence that reflects independence from external approval. You no longer need the world to confirm your value before you take your next step. You no longer need praise to feel grounded, nor do you need permission to stand tall. Your worth is not a question that needs answering. It is a truth that needs living. And when you begin to walk with that truth, everything around you shifts. Notice how your breath deepens when you trust yourself. Notice how your shoulders relax when you stop performing. Notice how your steps stabilize when you focus on your own path instead of comparing it to someone else's. Epictetus taught that we suffer when we try to control what is not ours. Your worth, however, is entirely yours, untouched by opinion, untouched by failure, untouched by praise. Move forward with the quiet intensity of someone who no longer doubts their place in the world. That does not mean arrogance, it means alignment. When your inner compass is clear, your outer actions follow effortlessly. The world begins to feel less threatening, less chaotic, less overwhelming because you are no longer letting external forces define what you believe about yourself. Your presence is strength. Not the kind forged from noise or aggression, but the kind that grows from discipline, reflection, and self-respect. Walk as someone who has endured storms and learned from them. Walk as someone who has faced fear and recognized it as a teacher. Walk as someone who has grown beyond old identities and stepped into a deeper understanding of who they truly are. And let this become your new foundation. You are enough not because of what you've done, but because of who you are becoming. Every step you take with awareness reinforces that truth. Every moment of clarity strengthens it. Every breath taken in presence affirms it. Walk forward with this realization alive within you. You are more powerful than your doubt, more resilient than your past, and more capable than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. Carry yourself as someone who understands that every movement, every breath, every silent decision is shaped by the quality of your inner world. The Stoics taught that your outer posture mirrors your inner clarity. When the mind is scattered, your steps feel uncertain. When the mind is grounded, even the smallest motion carries quiet power. So let your walk become a reflection of the stability you are building within. Move through life with a mind that no longer bends to fear or self-doubt. Epictetus reminded his students that nothing is frightening unless your judgment makes it so. When you walk like you are enough, you are not pretending. You are correcting the false judgments that have kept you small. You are reclaiming the authority that was always yours. You are choosing to step forward with a sense of inner completion rather than waiting for the world to complete you. Let your posture remind you that you have survived tempests that others never witnessed. You've endured moments that could have broken you, yet here you stand, still steady, still searching for growth, still committed to living with integrity. This alone proves that you carry more resilience than you acknowledge. Seneca wrote, the mind, strengthened by challenges, becomes capable of enduring anything. Your journey has already carved that strength into you. Walk with a calm rhythm, not rushing toward what hasn't arrived and not regretting what has passed. The Stoics urged us to stay in the present, because that is where your power lives. When your mind wanders backward into old wounds, your steps become heavy. When it leaps forward into imagined failures, your pace loses balance. But when your awareness returns to this exact moment, each movement aligns effortlessly with your deeper purpose. Every step becomes a statement, I accept who I am. Every breath becomes a reminder, I am not lacking anything. Every forward motion becomes a declaration, I belong here. Understand this, carrying yourself as someone who is enough is not arrogance, it is wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul remains unharmed unless it harms itself. Your worth has never been taken from you. It was only clouded by your own doubts, by the weight of other people's opinions, by the standards you thought you needed to meet. Now you are returning to your own nature, steady, capable, and complete. Move with a presence that does not need to dominate, impress, or prove. True confidence is silent. It is the kind that others feel more than they hear. It's the kind that radiates from a person who knows who they are, even when the world tries to tell them otherwise. When you walk with this kind of presence, you stop shrinking to fit into places that don't honor your identity. Let your steps teach you something profound. You are not becoming worthy, you already are. The path before you is not a test of whether you deserve to take it. It is simply a space for you to express the strength, wisdom, and clarity that have always been inside you. Your walk becomes a practice of self-respect, a ritual of inner alignment, a reminder that your life belongs to you alone. So continue forward with this truth, guiding your every motion. You walk like you are enough because you finally understand that you always were. Move forward with the understanding that the world may overlook you, misunderstand you, or fail to see the depth of your character. And yet none of that reduces who you are. The Stoics repeatedly reminded us that true value does not shift with public opinion. It remains steady, rooted in the strength of your inner nature. When you walk like you are enough, you are not asking the world for confirmation, you are affirming a truth the world can neither grant nor deny. Think about how often people wait for approval before they take their next step. They pause, hesitate, or shrink because someone might not applaud their effort. But Epictetus taught that depending on external validation is a kind of imprisonment. The moment you hand the world the authority to define your worth, you lose yourself. So reclaim that authority. Walk with a posture that reflects a mind free from the need to impress. Let the rhythm of your steps remind you that you are no longer guided by fear of judgment. You are guided by purpose. A person who knows their own value moves differently, not with defiance, not with pride, but with a calm certainty that their life is shaped from within. When you carry yourself with this inner alignment, others may notice, but their recognition is no longer required for you to feel complete. Seneca wrote that a wise person stands firm even when alone, because wisdom is a companion strong enough to replace the crowd. Let that truth settle inside you. The acceptance you once chased can never offer the peace you're seeking. Only self-respect can do that. Only integrity can do that. Only the quiet awareness of your own worth can do that. Walk with a presence that speaks without sound. The most powerful individuals are often the quietest because their confidence is not built on noise. It is built on understanding. It is shaped by reflection. It is strengthened by trials that refined them rather than defeated them. You are carrying that same quiet strength, whether you recognize it or not. Every step you take is a reminder that you are no longer waiting to be chosen. You have chosen yourself. You have chosen to rise above past doubts. You have chosen to release the weight of comparison. Marcus Aurelius taught that the soul remains steady when it refuses to be pulled by the desires or fears of others. Practice that steadiness now. Let your movement reflect independence from every opinion that once controlled you. Do not underestimate the power of this shift. When you begin to walk through the world as someone who is enough, you inspire a new relationship with life. Challenges feel different. Interactions feel different. Even silence feels different because you no longer interpret it as rejection, but as space to breathe, think, and grow. Your worth is not a prize you win after proving something extraordinary. It is a truth woven into your existence. You are enough because you are a whole being capable of discipline, reflection, compassion, and resilience. No title, achievement, or recognition can add to that core. Nothing and no one can take from it. So continue forward with the composure of someone who finally understands this. Walk as a person who knows that the world's gaze is unstable, but their own inner judgment can be steady. Walk as someone who honors their path, respects their effort, and trusts their growth. Walk as someone who has realized this powerful truth. You do not become enough. You remember that you already are. Begin this part of your journey by recognizing that direction becomes clearer the moment you trust the quiet guidance within you. The Stoics believed that true navigation in life happens through inner wisdom, not through the shifting opinions surrounding you. When you carry yourself as someone who is already enough, your steps stop wandering. They gain intention, they gain clarity, they gain dignity. There is a quiet guidance inside you, subtle, steady, often ignored, yet it has never failed you. Epictetus emphasized that your greatest asset is the ability to choose your perspective. When you trust that perspective, your path becomes your own. You no longer drift from one expectation to the next. You no longer chase approval. You move with alignment, not pressure. Consider how many times you've dismissed your own instincts because someone else's voice felt louder. Those moments didn't mean your inner compass was weak. They meant you were taught to value external noise more than your own truth. Seneca warned that following the crowd leads to confusion, while following yourself leads to serenity. This is why walking like you are enough matters. It brings you back to your own source of guidance. Let your movement reflect this return. Instead of stepping with uncertainty, step with awareness. Your path is not supposed to mirror anyone else's. Your life is not meant to be measured by comparison. When you stop trying to fit into shapes that were never yours, your direction becomes unmistakable. You feel lighter, sharper, calmer, more focused. Think of how rivers carve their own routes. They don't ask permission, they follow their nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote that things align with their purpose when they stop resisting what they are. You are the same. Your purpose becomes clearer when you stop doubting yourself, when you stop apologizing for existing, when you stop minimizing your strength to make others comfortable. Carry yourself with a presence that honors your inner compass. There is a power in moving forward even when uncertainty surrounds you. That power comes from understanding that clarity grows along the path, not before it. You don't need the full map to take your next step. You only need to trust the direction your mind and heart point toward. Every step you take with trust becomes a statement of self-respect. Every decision you make with awareness becomes a step toward alignment. Every quiet moment of reflection sharpens your ability to choose wisely. Your inner guidance is not crooked. It has been shaped by your experiences, your challenges, your growth, your resilience. It knows what you need, even when the world tries to distract you. Epictetus would remind you that no external force can harm the person who stays loyal to their own judgment. That loyalty is your strength. So let your walk show that you trust yourself. Let it show that you are no longer searching for someone else to define your direction. Let it show that your worth is not a question, it is the foundation you move from. And with every step you take in alignment with your inner compass, your path becomes clearer, your mind becomes steadier, and your confidence deepens naturally. Continue onward with this understanding, alive in you. The moment you trust your inner guidance, you walk like the person you were always meant to be, enough, capable, and unshaken. Strengthen this moment by refusing to treat your worth like something that must be bargained for. Too many people spend their lives negotiating with themselves, lowering their value to gain acceptance, shrinking their truth to avoid conflict, dimming their presence to make others comfortable. The Stoics warned against this subtle self-betrayal. When you begin walking like you are enough, you finally end those silent negotiations and stand firmly in the truth of who you are. Recognize how exhausting it has been to constantly prove yourself. The need for approval drains the mind, weakens the spirit, and distracts you from your true path. Epictetus taught that freedom arises the moment you stop allowing external forces to dictate your self-perception. When you no longer depend on others to tell you who you are, your confidence becomes natural instead of forced. It begins to grow from the inside out. Reflect on how often you've allowed doubt to interrupt your progress, not because you lacked strength, but because you were conditioned to measure your worth through reactions, judgments, or silence from others. Seneca reminded us that a person becomes unshakable when they stop tying their peace to circumstances outside their control. Every time you detach your value from the world's response, you reclaim a part of yourself. Let your steps express this reclamation. Move as someone who understands that they owe nothing to people who question their worth. Your life is not a performance. You are not required to entertain misunderstandings about who you are. You are not responsible for convincing anyone of your potential. Marcus Aurelius urged us to keep returning to our own nature, for it is the only place where truth resides. When you reconnect with that nature, your confidence becomes calm, steady, and effortless. Carry yourself in a way that reflects loyalty to your own identity. This doesn't mean becoming rigid, it means becoming honest. You walk differently when you're no longer trying to earn the right to exist. You move with a presence that says, I know myself, I trust myself, I stand with myself. This kind of self-support is rare, yet it is the foundation of unshakable confidence. Think of how storms test the strength of a tree. The roots that go deep keep it standing. Your self-worth is those roots. When it is anchored firmly inside you, no opinion can uproot it. No criticism can weaken it. No comparison can distort it. The world may try to sway you, but the person who is aligned with themselves cannot be moved easily. Each step you take becomes a reminder that your worth is not negotiable. Each decision becomes an act of inner loyalty. Each breath becomes a reaffirmation of your truth. You don't need to fight for acceptance when you already accept yourself. You don't need to chase belonging when you belong to your own principles. You don't need to prove anything when your life itself becomes the proof of your strength, discipline, and intention. So continue forward with a presence that reflects your inner certainty. Walk as someone who no longer bargains with their own value. Walk as someone who understands that confidence is not loud, it is consistent. Walk as someone who embodies a truth the Stoics lived by. The person who knows their own worth moves through life without fear. Notice how much strength lies in quiet assurance. The world often praises the loud, the flashy, and the forceful. Yet the Stoics taught that real power is subtle, steady, and rooted in understanding. Epictetus insisted that the person who masters themselves becomes unshakable, and that mastery begins with calm presence. When you walk like you are enough, your power is not in proving anything. It is in simply being. Do not mistake this quiet confid for weakness. There is nothing fragile in a soul that knows its value. Seneca wrote that tranquility of mind surpasses all fleeting achievements. When you carry that tranquility into your movements, each step radiates authority without demanding recognition. You no longer seek approval, you no longer fear judgment. You simply embody your own integrity. Every time you pause, breathe, or stand still, let it reinforce this truth. Presence matters more than performance. People may notice, people may not, but your own awareness is enough to sustain you. Marcus Aurelius often reflected that the mind becomes free when it stops measuring itself against external events. Your walk should carry that freedom, calm, deliberate, and untroubled by noise or expectation. Consider how often hesitation arises from imagined shortcomings. You have been taught to fill empty spaces with doubt, to weigh yourself against impossible standards, to shrink in the shadow of other people's perceptions. Yet every Stoic philosopher emphasized that these doubts are illusions created by the mind. Step past them, move beyond them, trust that the value you seek has always been inside you. When you walk in quiet assurance, your actions are measured and intentional. You do not rush to impress or to be seen. Each movement reflects inner alignment. Each choice reflects self-respect. Each interaction is tempered by calm authority. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the strength of a mind anchored in truth rather than opinion. Remember the storms you have endured. Remember the moments that could have shattered your resolve, but instead refined it. Your resilience has become a force no one can diminish. The world may test you, but your presence remains unmoved. Epictetus reminds us that the person who depends only on virtue and reason cannot be truly harmed by circumstance. Your calm walk is an expression of that principle. Every step taken in this way reaffirms your sufficiency. Every decision made from this centered place builds quiet confidence. Every moment lived in awareness reinforces the truth. You do not need to prove yourself. You do not need to justify your existence. You do not need permission to be present in the world. Walk as the person who has seen that life's judgments are fleeting and external praise is optional. Walk as someone who draws power from self-knowledge and self-respect. Walk as someone who understands that real authority is silent, consistent, and grounded in clarity. And with every measured step, carry this Stoic truth within you. You are enough because your presence alone reflects a mind and spirit that cannot be diminished. Step forward with the realization that comparing yourself to others is a voluntary burden, one that has never reflected your true value. The Stoics taught that measuring yourself against someone else is a form of self-deception, a distraction from the only metric that matters, your own character and growth. Epictetus reminded us that freedom comes when we stop letting external appearances dictate our inner peace. Walking like you are enough begins with releasing the weight of comparison. Observe how often your energy has been spent chasing someone else's life, achievements, or recognition. Each glance toward another person's success carries an unneeded burden, a silent question about whether you measure up. Seneca wrote that envy and unnecessary longing create suffering where none existed. When you release these thoughts, your steps gain lightness, your mind gains clarity, and your presence radiates quiet certainty. Understand that your worth is not a reflection of what others have or have achieved. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that every person has a unique purpose, a path carved by their own choices and circumstances. Comparing yourself to someone else ignores the lessons that only your own life can teach you. Walking as enough requires embracing the uniqueness of your journey, even if it is slower, quieter, or less visible than those around you. Allow your inner voice to shift. Instead of asking, "Am I enough?" replace it with the understanding, "I am complete as I am, and every step I take builds what I am meant to become." This subtle change reshapes your posture, your movement, and your energy. You walk differently when the mind is no longer divided by doubt and external judgment. Your presence gains weight, not from effort to impress, but from alignment with your own values. Notice how comparisons erode peace. They make victories feel small, make progress feel insufficient, and cast shadows over moments that should feel full. The Stoics urge that tranquility arises from focusing on what is in your control, your thoughts, choices, and actions, not on what is not. Let each step you take be grounded in what you can influence, your discipline, your reflection, your integrity. Let every moment of self-alignment remind you that you are enough without exception. Walk as someone whose confidence comes from mastery of their own mind. Walk as someone who knows that no one else can define your worth. Walk as someone who has chosen to honor their own path, rather than chase the illusions of comparison. Epictetus would say that you cannot be harmed by what others achieve or fail to see in you, only by losing sight of your own principles. With each step, release the invisible weight of measuring yourself against another's life. With each breath, claim the freedom that comes from trusting your own growth. With each motion, remember, your value has never been determined by comparison, and your life unfolds exactly as it should. Walk in the quiet power of self-accepting. And let your inner alignment announce the truth without words. You are enough because your worth exists independently of any other measure. Feel the strength in moving without the need to explain, justify, or defend yourself. The Stoics recognized that true presence does not require performance. Epictetus emphasized that the mind, guided by virtue and reason, does not need validation from others. Walking like you are enough begins when you let your very being communicate what words cannot. There is power in silence, in the steady rhythm of deliberate steps, in the calm posture of a mind undisturbed by the need for recognition. Notice how often people speak to prove their worth. Their voices carry urgency, attempting to convince the world of something that already exists within them. Seneca warned that unnecessary speech often diminishes authority. In contrast, your quiet confidence, reflected in measured movements, composed gaze, and controlled breath, conveys the depth of your presence. You do not need applause. You do not need explanation. You do not need consent. You only need to exist fully aligned with your own nature. When you walk with quiet assurance, every interaction shifts subtly. Others sense a steadiness they cannot manufacture, a strength that does not rely on external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius reflected on the importance of inner discipline, noting that a soul guided by reason is untouchable. Your calm, silent presence becomes proof of that principle. Each step becomes an embodiment of self-respect, each breath a declaration of sufficiency. Release the urge to perform for the world's gaze. Let your actions reflect intentionality, not desperation. Each movement, no matter how small, carries weight when it comes from inner alignment. Epictetus reminded us that external events are neither good nor bad, they only become so through our judgment. Similarly, your worth is neither enhanced nor diminished by others' perceptions. When you accept this truth, every step you take carries dignity and quiet authority. Reflect on the occasions when you felt the need to explain yourself, justify choices, or defend your path. Those moments drain energy and fracture presence. Replace them with silent confidence. Let your walk express the truth that you do not require validation. The world may comment, may question, may misinterpret, yet your inner calm remains intact. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is an unwavering acknowledgement of your own value, independent of circumstance. Allow your silence to become a tool, a language of its own. Each pause, each deliberate step, each controlled breath conveys something that words cannot. I am enough. I am grounded. I am aligned. The presence that emanates from this quiet power is unmistakable, and it commands respect without demand. Walk through life with this awareness. The more you rely on your own alignment, the less the world can shake you. Let each movement affirm that self-respect and quiet authority are greater than approval and noise. Let each moment of composure remind you that sufficiency is internal, not borrowed. And let your life demonstrate what the Stoics knew. You do not need to speak to prove your value. Walking as yourself is proof enough. Recognize that your journey unfolds according to your own rhythm, not the expectations of others. Life often tempts us to hurry, to chase milestones dictated by someone else's calendar. The Stoics taught that haste without purpose is a distraction from what truly matters. Epictetus emphasized that progress is measured by the cultivation of virtue, not by outward accomplishments. When you walk like you are enough, you honor your pace, moving steadily with intent rather than urgency. Consider how often impatience has led to frustration, comparison, or self-doubt. Seneca reminded us that life's value is in quality, not speed. When you resist the pressure to conform to external timelines, you create space for reflection, growth, and awareness. Your steps become deliberate, your choices more mindful, and your presence more grounded. Walking as someone who is enough requires this patience, this acceptance of your own rhythm, and the understanding that your timing is already perfect. Each step you take at your own pace carries a quiet authority. It communicates that you are guided by principle rather than by reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we must follow the nature of our own mind, for it is the only path that leads to true stability. Your path is yours alone, and embracing it fully, without comparison or hurry, reflects inner confidence and sufficiency. Let go of the fear that moving slower than others means falling behind. The Stoics reminded us that external appearances are deceptive. True progress is measured by mastery of self, clarity of thought, and consistency in action. When you walk with awareness of this, each step reinforces your worth. You are enough, not because of speed, not because of accolades, but because you are present, disciplined, and aligned with your nature. Notice how rushing through life often distances you from your own strength. Patience allows you to recognize lessons in every encounter, to absorb insights from challenges, and to integrate experiences into wisdom. Epictetus wrote that adversity is not to be avoided, but observed and learned from. When you accept your pace, each moment becomes an opportunity for reflection and growth, building the kind of character that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Walk as someone who respects their own rhythm. Walk as someone who understands that sufficiency is not measured by comparison, but by integrity and alignment. Walk as someone who knows that every thoughtful step, every intentional breath, and every calm movement strengthens the foundation of self-worth. Let this rhythm guide your life, slow enough to remain aware, steady enough to remain committed, and deliberate enough to honor the truth that you are enough. As the Stoics taught, life's measure is not in quantity or haste, but in the wisdom, presence, and courage we bring to each step we take. Walk at your own pace, for every intentional step is a declaration that you are complete as you are. Acknowledge that struggle is not a reflection of inadequacy, but a natural part of growth. The Stoics recognized that life tests everyone. Yet these tests are not indicators of failure. They are opportunities to cultivate strength, resilience, and wisdom. Epictetus emphasized that adversity does not harm the person who masters their mind. Walking like you are enough requires you to see challenges not as punishments, but as instruments that refine character and reveal the depth of your own sufficiency. Consider the moments when you felt unworthy because life was difficult. Each obstacle, setback, or disappointment may have felt like proof that you were not enough. Yet the Stoics remind us that the value of a person is not measured by their ease or success, but by how they respond to trials. Seneca wrote that suffering, when met with reason, becomes a teacher rather than a burden. The very act of enduring and learning transforms struggle into proof of your inherent worth. Let your steps today reflect this understanding. Move forward with calm determination, knowing that the hardships you face do not subtract from who you are. They reveal the resilience you possess and the inner strength you have cultivated through persistence. Marcus Aurelius observed that external circumstances are neutral. It is the judgment we apply to them that creates suffering. You are enough, regardless of what unfolds around you. Release the internal voice that whispers, "I should be further along. I should have overcome this by now." That voice is not your guide. It is a distraction. Epictetus taught that self-imposed expectations often create unnecessary suffering. Instead, allow each challenge to teach you, shape you, and remind you that you are progressing exactly as you are meant to. Walking like you are enough is the conscious act of valuing your effort over external results, your growth over others' perceptions. Every struggle you endure has a hidden purpose. It strengthens your patience, sharpens your judgment, and deepens your understanding of life's rhythms. Each time you rise after difficulty, each time you confront discomfort without surrendering to fear, you are affirming your sufficiency. The trials you face do not diminish your worth. They highlight the qualities that make you fundamentally complete. Move with the assurance that your journey, with all its trials and imperfections, is enough. Walk as someone who knows that challenge is part of the natural order, and that responding with integrity and presence reflects your true value. Seneca advised that adversity becomes manageable when we see it as an instrument for growth rather than a judgment on our character. Embrace this perspective. Step forward, carrying this truth in every motion. Your struggles do not make you less. They make you stronger. They make you enough. Focus on this. The value of your existence is not tied to results. Too often the mind measures worth through achievements, approval, or recognition. The Stoics taught that such measures are illusions, distractions from the true source of stability and confidence. Epictetus reminded us that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Walking like you are enough means detaching from outcomes and centering your attention on presence, effort, and alignment with your own principles. Recognize the futility of trying to control what lies beyond your influence. Seneca wrote that tranquility is found when we release attachment to uncertain outcomes. Every step you take towards something external can create unnecessary suffering if your peace depends on success or recognition. Shift your focus inward. Measure yourself by your integrity, your attention, your discipline, and your presence. In this shift, the mind grows calm, the body carries itself with assurance, and each movement reflects sufficiency. Your presence in the moment is more valuable than any accolade. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that living fully in accordance with reason is the greatest measure of a life well lived. When you walk with this awareness, you carry quiet authority. Each motion, each breath, each gesture becomes a statement, "I am enough," regardless of the world's applause. Consider how often you have felt anxious or incomplete because outcomes didn't align with your expectations. These reactions are natural, yet they can cloud the clarity of your mind. Epictetus advised to focus on what is within your control and to treat everything else with equanimity. Walking like you are enough requires the same perspective. Your steps should be deliberate, not reactive. Your energy should reflect inner alignment, not external validation. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to practice this principle. You cannot guarantee results, but you can guarantee the quality of your attention, the integrity of your action, and the steadiness of your mind. Walking with awareness of this fact transforms each moment from a source of worry into a source of strength. It shifts life from a race for approval into a journey of self-realization. Move with deliberate purpose. Let your posture, your pace, and your breath reflect alignment rather than attachment. Let your gaze carry quiet assurance. Let every step you take remind you that sufficiency does not depend on outcomes, timing, or recognition. It depends on your ability to remain grounded, attentive, and true to yourself. Carry this truth as you continue forward. You are enough because your value exists independent of what happens around you. Presence, integrity, and conscious choice are your measure, and they are sufficient. Recognize that your peace is not dependent on being seen or understood by others. Too often, the mind craves acknowledgement, explanation, or validation. The Stoics warned that such desires are chains binding the soul to instability. Epictetus taught that the person who seeks approval from others surrenders their freedom. Walking like you are enough begins when you release the need to be understood, to explain yourself, or to justify your choices. Notice how many times you've restrained your movements, muted your voice, or shifted your actions in hopes of being accepted. These concessions, though subtle, undermine presence. Seneca emphasized that a wise person relies on reason, not on the fluctuating opinions of others. Your sufficiency does not require comprehension by anyone else. Your worth is independent of recognition. Move with the clarity of someone who no longer negotiates their identity for acceptance. Marcus Aurelius reflected on the idea that it is not what others think of you that shapes your character, but the quality of your thoughts and intentions. Let this awareness guide your steps. Walk deliberately, grounded in your principles and free from the burden of seeking understanding. When others misinterpret you, remain unshaken. When your choices are questioned, remain composed. The world may misread your actions, yet your inner clarity is your true measure. Epictetus reminds us that the person who governs their own mind is untouchable by misunderstanding. Walking like you are enough means internalizing this truth, letting it shape every movement and every decision. Allow your presence to communicate without explanation. Let your alignment, calm, and intentionality speak louder than words. Each step, each pause, each breath conveys authority and sufficiency. You are no longer dependent on someone else's perception to define your value. You exist fully, regardless of interpretation or acknowledgement. Notice how liberating it feels to move without seeking validation. Each action becomes lighter, each decision more certain, and each moment of presence more profound. The need to be understood often distracts from action, while letting go of that need allows your true self to emerge. Seneca reminded that the mind anchored in virtue is impervious to the judgments of others. Your inner alignment becomes your compass. Walk as someone whose integrity is stronger than any misunderstanding. Walk as someone who trusts their own judgment above opinion. Walk as someone who knows that sufficiency is internal, not conditional on others' comprehensio. Carry this truth forward in every step. You are enough because your value is not dependent on being understood. It exists inherently, simply because you are. Step lightly and deliberately, knowing that the chaos outside does not define you. The world often shouts, demands, and distracts, yet none of it holds authority over your inner life. The Stoics taught that clarity arises when the mind refuses to be pulled into external turmoil. Epictetus emphasized that true freedom comes from separating what is yours from what is not. Walking like you are enough means moving through the world without letting its noise infiltrate your sense of self. Notice how much energy is spent reacting to every voice, every criticism, every event that occurs beyond your control. The mind becomes cluttered, the body tense, and the spirit uncertain. Seneca reminded us that most suffering comes not from external circumstances, but from allowing them to disturb our inner calm. Your steps regain power the moment you turn your attention inward, rooting yourself in your own principles and letting the chaos swirl around without drawing you in. Imagine walking through a storm and feeling unaffected, not because the storm is gentle, but because your center is unshakable. Marcus Aurelius urged that life is filled with external turbulence, yet the mind can remain serene if it focuses on what it can govern. Each step you take grounded in this awareness reinforces your autonomy, your sufficiency, and your ability to remain composed, detached from every expectation that the world should behave a certain way. Let go of every assumption that life owes you ease, understanding, or recognition. Your freedom grows when you stop seeking approval, resisting events, or blaming circumstances. Epictetus teaches that by reclaiming judgment, you reclaim your power. Walking like you are enough is the act of exercise. Ing that power quietly, firmly, and consistently. Your presence becomes a sanctuary. Others may rage, complain, or misunderstand, but your steps communicate nothing but poise. Your mind becomes a fortress. Your decisions emerge from clarity, not pressure. Seneca observed that external chaos only dominates those who yield to it. You, however, move forward because you do not need the world to be still or quiet for you to remain composed. Each motion, each breath, each glance is proof of your independence from the world's disarray. You do not react impulsively, you do not bend under judgment, and you do not allow circumstance to determine your value. This is a different kind of strength, one that is unseen but profoundly felt. Walk in the calm eye of the storm. Let every step carry freedom, awareness, and self-possession. Let every movement silently declare, I am enough because no external chaos can diminish the completeness within me. Move forward with the understanding that your truest support comes from within, not from the approval, assistance, or recognition of others. The Stoics believed that relying on external validation or help creates vulnerability, while reliance on one's own reason, discipline, and judgment builds invincibility. Epictetus taught that freedom and strength arise when we cultivate our inner resources rather than depending on what is outside our control. Walking like you are enough is a practice of self-reliance, a quiet mastery of your own capabilities. Notice how often you've sought affirmation before taking action, waited for guidance before making choices, or looked outward for reassurance. Each moment spent outside yourself is a moment of hesitation, of doubt, of unnecessary dependence. Seneca wrote that the wise person carries their own guidance and strength, and therefore fears nothing that is beyond their control. Walking as somo. Nay, who is enough requires anchoring entirely in your own faculties. Think about the subtle ways reliance on others weakens your presence. When you constantly look for validation, your posture falters, your steps hesitate, and your energy becomes divided. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that a mind directed by virtue and reason is unshakable because it carries its own authority. Each step you take grounded in this authority radiates quiet power, a presence that does not need external reinforcement to be real. Your inner resources, your clarity, your resilience, your ability to act intentionally are sufficient to navigate life's challenges. They are unyielding, reliable, and ever-present. Epictetus reminds us that no external circumstance can harm the person who governs themselves. When you rely on your inner strength, you gain freedom from fear, expectation, and comparison. Walking like you are enough means living from that freedom every day. Move with deliberate confidence, knowing that the opinions, praise, or criticism of others do not shape your identity. Let every breath, every pause, every step remind you that your sufficiency is internal. Your skills, your judgment, and your self-discipline are yours to cultivate and depend on. They cannot be given or taken away. Notice how powerful it feels to act without hesitation, to make decisions without seeking approval, and to face challenges trusting entirely in yourself. This self-reliance is not isolation, it is empowerment. It allows you to walk forward with courage, clarity, and dignity, carrying the assurance that you are enough as you are, because all the tools you require are already within you. Step into the world with this quiet authority. I am enough because the strength I need resides entirely within me. I am capable, complete, and unshakable. Understand that everything around you is transient. Circumstances, opinions, achievements, even challenges. The Stoics taught that clarity comes when we accept impermanence, for nothing external has the power to define lasting value. Marcus Aurelius reminded that life is fleeting and that the only true possession is your reason, your presence, and your virtue. Walking like you are enough requires embracing impermanence, allowing each step to reflect a grounded confidence that is independent of the shifting world. Notice how often you have anchored your sense of worth to what is temporary, a compliment, a result, a position, or a circumstance. These fleeting things cannot sustain your peace. Epictetus taught that attaching yourself to what is outside your control leads to suffering, while anchoring yourself in what is unchanging, your character, your judgment, your integrity, brings freedom. Your sufficiency exists in these inner truths, not in the ephemeral patterns of life. Reflect on the moments when you clung to outcomes, fearing loss or failure. Seneca observed that the wise person is unshaken because they understand the natural flow of things and do not resist it. Each step you take with awareness of impermanence becomes lighter, more intentional, and more powerful. You move with the understanding that your value does not rise or fall based on temporary circumstances. It is already complete. Consider how impermanence can liberate you. When you realize that praise, recognition, or status will pass, the pressure to perform dissolves. When you understand that pain, hardship, and loss are temporary, fear loses its grip. Walking like you are enough means carrying this wisdom in every motion, stepping forward with courage because nothing external has the power to undermine your inner completeness. Your presence becomes anchored in the eternal, your reasoning mind, your deliberate actions, your self-respect. Each breath, each pause, each step reflects the calm knowledge that you are sufficient, regardless of what arrives or departs. The world changes constantly, yet your inner grounding remains untouched, firm and steady. Move as though nothing outside you can diminish your worth. Let impermanence remind you that dependence on fleeting things is optional. Let it strengthen your focus on what truly matters: alignment, integrity, and presence. Each step becomes a meditation in sufficiency, each movement a quiet affirmation of your inner completeness. Walk with freedom, knowing that life's impermanence cannot shake the truth of who you are. Let this Stoic understanding shape your posture, your decisions, and your presence. I am enough because my value is rooted in what cannot fade: my mind, my virtue, my conscious existence. Step into the quiet space where only you and your mind exist. Solitude is often feared, yet the Stoics understood it as essential for clarity and self-mastery. Epictetus taught that dependence on others' presence or approval diminishes autonomy, while turning inward cultivates independence. Walking like you are enough begins when you see that solitude is not emptiness but a powerful mirror reflecting your inner completeness. Notice how often you have sought company to fill a sense of lack or validation to mask self-doubt. These moments distract from the understanding that your presence alone is sufficient. Seneca wrote that the person who can enjoy their own company is truly free. The awareness of your own value grows in quiet, uninterrupted reflection. Each step you take while grounded in this understanding radiates self-reliance and calm confidence. Solitude allows you to observe your mind without distortion. It gives space to separate truth from fear, insight from illusion. Marcus Aurelius often withdrew inward to examine himself, realizing that the external world is neither master nor judge of worth. In the same way, walking with the awareness of your self-sufficiency allows you to move without seeking affirmation, praise, or understanding from others. Your presence becomes a testament to the strength cultivated in isolation. Embrace the moments when you are alone, for they are the laboratories of your character. Without distraction, you can measure your own intentions, correct your judgments, and strengthen your discipline. Epictetus reminds us that the only things truly necessary are reason, judgment, and virtue, all of which are fully accessible in solitude. Walking like you are enough means using these moments to recognize that your value is inherent, not conditional on companionship or applause. Every deliberate step taken while grounded in solitude reinforces self-recognition. Each pause for reflection reaffirms your sufficiency. Each choice, made independently of external influence, strengthens the foundation of your inner authority. The world may be loud, distracting, and demanding, yet your self-possession remains unshaken because it is rooted in a cultivated inner life. Move through life as someone whose presence is whole, complete, and unshakable, even when no one is watching. Let solitude be a teacher, revealing that your worth is not borrowed from others but born within. The quiet power of this awareness transforms each motion, each breath, and each interaction into an expression of self-sufficiency. Walk with this understanding guiding every step. I am enough, because even in solitude, my presence, judgment, and virtue remain complete and unwavering. Pause for a moment and feel the weight of this truth. Nothing outside of you can grant what already exists within. Every step you take, every breath you inhale, every choice you make reflects the sufficiency that has always been yours. The Stoics taught that life is not about acquiring what is missing, but realizing what is already present. Epictetus reminded us that judgment creates bondage. When you correct it, freedom follows. Walking like you are enough is not a goal to achieve. It is the recognition of a reality that has never been absent. Notice how often life tempts you to believe that worth is conditional, that it must be earned, proven, or validated by others. Seneca warned that attaching your value to external things is to surrender peace. Your sufficiency is not dependent on accolades, opinions, or outcomes. Marcus Aurelius observed that the mind aligned with reason and virtue stands unshaken by circumstance. Each step you take in this awareness communicates the quiet power of inner completeness. Look back at the journey you have walked in this video. You have learned to trust your inner compass, release the need for comparison, embrace solitude, detach from outcomes, and recognize impermanence as a teacher. Every lesson, every reflection, every moment of insight has been a reminder that you are enough. The strength you seek is not elsewhere. It lives inside your own mind, heart, and spirit. Carry this understanding forward. Confidence does not require noise, and presence does not require applause. The world may misread you, challenge you, or misunderstand your path, but none of this alters the truth of who you are. Walking with awareness, purpose, and self-alignment is the demonstration of your sufficiency. This is the practice the Stoics lived by, and it is the practice that will carry you through every storm and every calm alike. Let your steps be deliberate, your breath steady, and your posture grounded. Move as though every motion, no matter how small, is an expression of inner authority. Let every action communicate this truth without words. I am enough. I am complete. I am unshakable. And now, if you found value in this journey, if these reflections helped you see your own inner strength, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what lesson resonated most with you. And for more videos that explore the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, consider subscribing to my channel, Stoicism Notebook, where every lesson is designed to help you walk through life grounded, unshaken, and aware of your own worth. Step forward from here, carrying this truth with you. You do not need the world's approval. Your sufficiency is inherent, and your journey has already begun in alignment with it.